I call Barbara Stewart.
Mr Speaker, I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to take a call on the Substance Addiction Compulsory Assessment and Treatment Bill. Mr Speaker, New Zealand First supports this bill. The purpose of the bill is to provide provisions for the compulsory assessment and treatment of individuals with severe substance addiction who are totally unable to make decisions about their own treatment. So it is definitely needed in today's world. This bill is repealing the Alcoholism and Drug Addiction Act of 1966, legislation that is now 50 years old and well past its use-by date. Much has changed in the field of addictions since 1966. The types of addiction and, of course, the way that we treat people with addictions has also changed. And as we have heard from submitters when they came to the Select Committee, the current legislation presents some real challenges for health practitioners when they come to use it. Mr Speaker, we are under no illusion whatsoever as to the scale of the illicit drug problem in New Zealand. We know that we have got some of the highest drug use rates in the developed world. And the New Zealand Drug Harm Index, released earlier this year, found that the estimated social and intervention costs in 2014-15 were $1.8 billion. And that in itself is a truly staggering figure. So it is an area that demands attention, and I'm pleased that we're giving it just that this evening. We know that mental health and addiction problems affect more than just the individual. It affects the community, it affects the family, and yet we remain concerned that there is no mention of substance addiction causing serious harm to others, only to the individual. We are also concerned that there could be a lack of family involvement in a patient's care under the current provisions of this bill. The bill does provide for provisions for a friend or a family member who is most, and I quote, most evidently and directly concerned with the oversight of the patient's care and welfare to be informed. However, we are concerned that a whānau group may wish to be involved in decisions about the treatment and the care of their loved one. And we believe that a treatment plan should in the main be fully discussed with the family and the whānau and decisions made in consultation with them, if at all possible. I have heard in my office in Hamilton from distressed family members who have been left out of such decision making, and this causes a lot of stress and worry for them because they want the very best for their family member and for their loved one, and we all in this house would too. We do agree that the criteria for compulsory addiction treatment appears to be robust, and they include having a severe substance addiction, impaired informed decision-making, and compulsory treatment is required. There's also a final clause in the bill that states that appropriate treatment for the person must be available. It is a sector capacity that we are concerned about, and it's an issue that I raised in my first reading speech back in March. It is vitally important that a patient's condition is continually monitored and reviewed so that if the responsible clinician believes that the criteria for compulsory treatment is no longer met or no purpose would be served by compulsory treatment, the patient can be released. An aftercare plan, as recommended in the bill, is absolutely essential if there is to be a successful outcome for the patient. It is absolutely critical that the patient receives vital wraparound support, and not only do they receive help with their addiction, that other areas in their life are concerned. For example, the cause of the addiction. We're told that most of those people with addictions will have other areas in their life that are creating challenges. Could be housing, and it could be mental health, because that is a growing area. So it's going to be absolutely critical for government departments to work together to break down silos and try to get the person back on track. It's not an easy road to get back on track. So the more wraparound services there are, the better it is. What do we see currently? Too many Kiwis are actually slipping through the cracks of our social services, and every day in our communities we're seeing the results of a lack of investment in this area. The ability to review decisions is vital to protecting the rights of those affected by this bill. We agree totally that a patient or family member should be allowed to apply to the court for an urgent review if they believe that the criteria for compulsory treatment is not being met, or that the compulsory treatment order should never have been made. Mr. Speaker, the Health Select Committee received 39 submissions and we heard from 15 submitters. We must take this time to thank all of those who took the time to submit. It is not an easy area to submit on, and it added greatly to our knowledge of the people who work in this area and are involved in this field every day. And of course we have to thank the officials who ensured that we had a really good understanding of the whole issue. The majority of the submitters were in total agreement, as we all are here in this House, that the legislation needed to be updated, that it was past its use-by date. They were supportive of the general aims of the bill and were generally of the opinion that addiction is a health issue rather than a criminal one. A major concern raised was that of service capability and capacity. Concerns were raised about the lack of medical professionals with expertise in addiction and a general lack of staffing and funding. And they emphasised the need for continued support and treatment once the compulsory period ends. We heard that there is very little evidence that compulsory treatment is effective for those with severe addictions. So there are a few concerns there. Mr. Speaker, New Zealand First believes that further targeted support for addiction services need to be implemented by the government. We need to put more resources into preventing people from getting into the dire situation that this bill is actually intended for. We need to direct resources to our GPs and assist them in supporting those facing addiction in our communities and helping patients back on the road to recovery. I think we need to realise, Mr. Speaker, that there are barriers for people trying to seek help for their addictions, and these need to be removed. Such barriers include the expense of doctors' visits, perceived stigma, and of course, lengthy waiting lists. We've previously expressed our concerns that currently we have got no idea how many Kiwis are living with severe substance addiction, because now mental health and substance addiction services are lumped in together. We regard this as a failing that does need to be corrected. Many Kiwis are struggling to receive mental health and addiction support. We see it in our communities, and we hear the repeated calls for an independent review of our mental health services. In fact, I know there's going to be a petition presented at Parliament tomorrow, which is adding to the growing sense of unease that there is generally out in the public about mental health services. We are concerned that longer wait times will result in tragic outcomes, particularly when our suicide rates are as appalling as they are. So, Mr. Speaker, we are pleased to support this bill. We look forward to it going through the House. We have some concerns, but we believe this is a step in the right direction, and we will await the outcome of the committee stage of this bill. Thank you.